Trump administration moves to slash the federal workforce. Thousands of government employees are bracing for more layoffs this very morning, with new questions about the impact on the IRS, the height of the tax season. NBC News White House correspondent Aaron Gilchrist brings us the latest.
Air Force One buzzing the Daytona Speedway just before President Trump took his ultra-armored car, the Beast, for a lap around the track at the Daytona 500 and telling NASCAR fans the country is doing well.
We brought it back, and it's been less than 4 weeks. So you'll see what we do in a little period of time. It's going to only get better.
His Raceway message coming on the heels of his promise to save the nation money by continuing to slash the federal workforce. With tax season in full swing, social media flooded with fears about tax return chaos and delays if thousands of IRS employees are fired.
I feel bad for all of us hardworking people may not get our taxes filed in time.
We're in the middle of the tax.
New Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent telling Bloomberg News earlier this month, IRS employees can't take the president's buyout offer during tax season.
They're not eligible for that until May 15th. So I don't imagine anything's going to go on at the IRS until then or beyond.
President Trump last week responding to a question about closing the IRS.
No, I don't expect it, but I think that the Internal Revenue Service will be looked at like everybody else.
NBC News has obtained a termination letter sent to dozens of probationary workers at the Transportation Department saying they were fired for poor performance, despite most being rated exceptional. They join a growing list of fired employees, like once furloughed, now fired lawyer Kate Royce.
So when you got that email, what went through your mind?
So I think my first emotion was grief, quickly followed by anger. I'm worried about paying rent in March. I'm worried about getting the health care that I need.
That was NBC's Aaron Gilchrist for that report. We should add to that the Washington Post reporting last night that Musk and his Doge team in the IRS may be getting access to sensitive taxpayer data. So, Reverend Al Sharpton, there's an extraordinary amount of cuts that have already happened, more coming from Musk and his team. President Trump seems to be okay with that. But it's happening so fast, and as we discussed earlier, seemingly without discretion, that it's going to have real impact on people. And that includes a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump.
What shows the recklessness of this, when you find that people that were protecting us against nuclear attacks were just arbitrarily dismissed, and they can't even find out how to retract that or bring them back. This kind of recklessness is beyond politics now, because if you're trying to make an assessment to save money or waste, to deal with waste or deal with people that were ineffective, you would assume that there's been some deliberation in that and some investigation in that. But when we're finding people just dismissed and then later find out, oops, that might have been a security problem, then it shows that there's been no real serious thinking, investigation, looking into those that are being fired. And I think that on top of that, the instability is already an instability when you go from one administration to another. Now you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of federal workers laid off. It gives the country a sense of instability, including the people that supported President Trump.
Elise, there was a feeling amongst Democrats a couple of weeks ago that they couldn't really attack any of the Doge stuff because the message in the election had been it's all about democracy, and that hadn't really worked. And so they just weren't interested. Democrats just didn't seem interested in attacking anything to do or trying to defend anything to do with Washington and the government and the federal bureaucracy. Now that we're starting to see this, getting the stories a little bit more of individuals who are being impacted or potentially members of the public who are impacted, do you think that messaging is going to change? Do you think they are going to take the Doge efforts to cut bureaucracy more head on?
Well, when they can attack something like nuclear security, when they can say, oh, they're stripping away these critical safeguards for national security, they have a better vantage point politically than if they're defending, say, USAID, which unfortunately is not very popular with a lot of the American electorate. So as different moves are made and when it is something that is seen as critical to our safety, they have a much better line of attack.
Yeah, okay. There's so much going on in the federal government. I mean, it's really hard to keep track of it, and it's hard for the general public to keep track of it. But if they start going to national parks this summer and the restrooms are not open or they have longer lines, then you can imagine that people will start realizing what has actually happened.
Yeah, it seems pretty clear that right now it's still early. There's so much, there's the fire hose of news here. People haven't really focused on anything. But as they start to feel it in their lives, sooner than later, I guess, we could see some outcry.
Yeah.